There can be this tendency from transphobes, especially online, to see a boob and go, that's a woman. That's a woman. Was this a guessing game? Hello, my name is Iris. I make videos about androgyny, gender, and fashion. If you're new here, you're probably not. You might have seen me while you're scrolling on Instagram or TikTok as well. I make short form videos. But in my heart, I've always been a YouTuber first. You can see how many videos are on my YouTube channel. Now, I know I probably titled this video something like how to be more androgynous. And it's more so that knowing the things I'm about to share with you about androgyny and personal expression might give you a better grasp of what you want to think about when it comes to exploring your gender expression. Because androgyny does not look the same for everyone, I can't give you a step-by-step guide of like how to look androgynous. There is no universally applicable appearance that we want to be seeking. There are many ways to embody androgyny, which is by definition a combination of masculine and feminine elements. And this video is pretty appearance centric. A lot of my viewers are trans and non-binary and might be looking for information specifically related to non-cisgender identity, gender expression, but obviously you don't need to be a certain gender identity to embody androgyny or embody any kind of gender expression. Some of the most androgynous people I know in real life are cisgender men, and then I also know some really androgynous non-binary people, some androgynous trans people. We need to be careful not to conflate gender identity and gender expression and say that they absolutely have to align, because they don't, but they can, and it can be really affirming when they do. If you want to hear more about androgyny and how our ideas of masculinity and femininity are wrapped up in white supremacism and colonialism and systems of oppression, you might want to check out my video about fascism and anti-trans rhetoric. I don't really want to reiterate it every single time I talk about androgyny and the gender binary and our perception of gender, but I get kind of into the details in that video. So today, as per usual, I'm using the gender binary as a touch point to talk about gender expression, not saying that you need to look or act a certain way in order to deserve being seen as who you are, but if you do want to use this knowledge to explore your gender expression, I'm happy to be a resource. Before I get further into this, I want to talk about today's sponsor, Vitaly. When it comes to gender and fashion, we often think about clothing silhouettes and how they work in tandem with body shape to communicate a certain gender expression, often based on biological ideals. Different types of clothing are also categorized in a gendered capacity, like spaghetti strap tank tops are seen as more feminine, but androgynous expression can also be found in the details, and those details don't necessarily need to be gendered. Vitaly exemplifies this really well because they incorporate a lot of non-human and industrial components into their jewelry. Stay with me because yes, this is our sponsor, but it is absolutely relevant to this discussion. When we include non-human elements in our outfits, since those aesthetics don't exist within the gender binary, they can also subvert gender expectations when you incorporate them aesthetically because they don't exist within the gender binary. They are outside of it. They are something else entirely. I'm talking about things like robotics or industrial or infrastructural components. I know a lot of trans and non-binary individuals that might reject the binary altogether and seek aesthetic inspiration elsewhere because that's what feels the most comfortable, especially using really unusual or inorganic shapes. All of the jewelry I'm wearing in this video is from Vitaly. Vitaly uses entirely recycled stainless steel, and their pieces are designed to be specifically unisex. And my obsession with stainless steel jewelry is largely because of Vitaly. I actually have like kind of an obscene number of pieces from them, and I personally really like the finish of the metal because it's shiny but a little bit darker in tone than silver. And I just got some new pieces. I have some new gold rings from them so I can expand my gold jewelry stack. I wear a lot of silver tones, but I also love to wear gold occasionally, and it's great to have some truly unisex pieces that are gold because I found that a lot of gold pieces tend to be leaning more feminine. For the rings, I really like these statement pieces because they feel a little cyborgy, so not necessarily inhuman, but decorating with something that feels inorganic but made to be in tandem with the body. There's a tendency to associate unisex items with masculinity, especially things that have more visual weight. You know, think about the phrase like dainty and feminine. Apparently, femininity is ruled by dainty little jewelry, and therefore the opposite must be masculinity, right? But bringing it back to the discussion about inhuman elements, and something I often talk about is how accessories can communicate your interests. I was a sound guy for a while. I worked as a sound engineer in college for 4 years. I did live sound for concerts. So I have this bracelet that's a little aux cord. I think it's so cute, and it feels very very fitting to me in terms of my personal expression. So if you're looking for some unisex jewelry, check out Vitaly. I have a link with them that gives me a little commission and I think gives you guys a discount. So I'll have that in the description. I literally wear pieces from them every single day. I love the ear cuffs. I love the earrings, the chokers. I get so many questions about where my jewelry is from. And Vitaly is one of the main sources. Watch any one of my videos and you will see them in my jewelry stack. Let's talk about outfit silhouettes. There are many different ways that people will use different outfit silhouettes in tandem with body shape to convey or conceal certain physical or biological gender marking. People who are assigned female at birth tend to have wider hips. Usually when we're talking about curves, we're talking about like the breast shape and the hip shape, or having a little booty. I personally don't have one of those. A lot of people are like, oh, you're so androgynous. It's my flat ass, actually. But I also avoid jeans that come in at my thigh because I find that they emphasize my hip shape in a way that I do not like. There will be times when I don't mind my hip shape being emphasized. Depending on the day, I might be wearing a pair of shorts or a skirt or a dress that kind of emphasizes it a little bit. But often in pants, it makes me feel pretty dysphoric, and it's not something I like to emphasize like unintentionally. For people who were assigned male at birth, in terms of gender marking, there might be like a broader shoulder or a distinct lack of a breast shape and a more straight hip shape. But there are also a lot of people who are assigned female at birth who have those same traits. And when we bring biological traits into the picture of what you're seeing, they don't get to supersede everything else. A boob does not make a woman. There can be this tendency from transphobes, especially online, to see a boob and go, that's a woman, that's a woman. Was this a guessing game? Yes, I have them. I got a comment recently from somebody on Instagram that was saying like, I did a ad with like an underwear company, right? And so my breasts are pretty visible. And I got a comment on my next post saying, after I saw you do that ad, I respect your opinion, but I can't look at you as non-binary anymore. I honestly don't give a fuck how you look at me. But that's weird. That's weird to say that. So yes, people will perceive in their minds how they want to perceive you. That honestly doesn't fucking matter, especially the people that aren't going to be in your life. But in order to avoid basically biological gender marking, like superseding everything, a lot of trans and non-binary people might opt for looser fitting silhouettes that conceal the body shape. We're talking like baggy clothing and layers to conceal the overall body shape, any curves you might have. And people also might use this type of clothing in tandem with like trans tape or a binder to conceal like a breast shape if that is relevant to their anatomy, because for a lot of people a binder isn't actually gonna like fully flatten their chest and make it seem like they don't have breasts. So you kind of use it in tandem with baggier clothing to get the most effective conceal on the breast shape. But baggy, loose-fitting clothing is only one of the options when it comes to gender expression, right? Because we can also use clothing to create shape or exaggerate certain body features. Like if your body is not particularly curvy, you might opt for clothing that cinches at the waist and emphasizes the hips, using something like a skirt to create that shape. Or if you want more of a masculine hourglass shape, I don't know if I've talked about this on the YouTube channel. So we know kind of like the feminine hourglass shape, which is like boobs, hips. Yeah, the masculine hourglass is a different version of this, with the smallest point being at the hips and then expanding out to the shoulders, and then also expanding out towards the feet, giving like more visual weight down there. The masculine hourglass and the feminine hourglass can both be created or emphasized using clothing, and it really depends on the structure of the clothing. You might find a jacket with more structured shoulders or a heavier fabric that helps create that more like broad shouldered look. So shape is really important in the gender expression that we're putting out, and we can kind of play around with the biological ideals to make something different, make something unexpected, subvert people's expectations. And you can combine aspects that are seen as more femme and more masc to create that androgynous look. And obviously, like for myself, I'm working with a pretty like thin body, and so any clothing I add on top is kind of creating its own shape, right? Because I don't have that much of a shape. So this is gonna look different for everyone depending on how your body looks and works, right? What you are able to do differs, and that's why like self-customization is super important when you're exploring your gender expression, because you can't just like look at me and assume that the same thing is gonna look the same on you. You can't just look at anybody and assume it's gonna look the same on you. But you can look at like how something's fitting, where it's fitting on somebody's body, see what you actually like about the piece of clothing. Is it the broader shoulders? Is it how the pants are kind of hanging and showing the waistband of some boxers? Like that all like factors into how we're perceiving things. Like with the waistband of a boxer, people who don't necessarily need a bra might wear a little tank top under a shirt to give the same bra strap look. So that's a little bit about how you can use clothing structure to customize. And clothing is only one of the ways that we customize our appearance. appearance. Another central aesthetic component when it comes to us is our hair, both the hair on our head and on our body, whether you choose to shave your armpits or your legs or your face, and then also what haircut or hairstyle you pick for yourself. With regard to body hair, I get a lot of comments online about my body because I don't choose to shave my armpits. I'll like do it occasionally. I'm pretty neutral about body hair because I have a lot of it. I've always had a lot of it. My arms are pretty hairy, and when I was younger, I was self-conscious of that, but now I literally don't even think about it. I think my little fuzzy arms are adorable, but I also make the choice to shave my legs because I think it's pretty. So there are endless ways that we can mix and match those choices, right? Like I got hairy armpits and shaved legs. With regards to facial hair, even on myself, I have a little stash. Those are my genes, I guess, which once again, when I was younger, I was self-conscious about, but I get comments from people saying they like my stash, which honestly, I don't like people pointing it out because like I was super self-conscious about it when I was younger, and it doesn't really do anything like positive for me in terms of gender stuff personally, but I try to remain neutral about it because I don't want to shave my face. There is this version of femininity that is hairless, and you can absolutely use that to your advantage in your gender expression, but it's not a necessity. Women have hair and are hairy. You don't need to remove all that unless it makes you feel beautiful. Besides body hair, of course, we have the hair on your head. So I have an entire video about different androgynous haircut ideas where I also get into the details of my personal haircut, and I give you ideas for literally every single hair texture. It's haircuts, it's hairstyles, if you want to go look at that. And the thing about your haircut is it's just one aspect of the entire picture. So you can have a haircut that is maybe longer and more feminine and then be wearing a mask outfit, and that's androgyny, right? Those are masculine and feminine components combined together. You can have a haircut that is deemed entirely masculine or deemed entirely feminine, not necessarily something in the middle, and still have an androgynous appearance because that's not the only thing relevant in how you look. Much like I was talking earlier about how a boob does not make a woman. A boob does not supersede all of the aesthetic choices you make in your personal expression. The degree to which you incorporate masculinity or femininity into your expression is very flexible, and therefore androgyny isn't going to look the same for everyone. And the version of androgyny that's like right in the middle between masc and femme, evenly there, that might be the goal for some people, but it's not the goal for everyone. And lately I have been leaning a little more feminine in my gender expression, but since I see myself as sort of a masculine component in that picture, like it still feels androgynous to me because I'm like viewing myself that way. Go watch my video about how I knew I was non-binary and you'll know what I'm talking about here. It's about self-perception. When we're standing in a museum looking at a painting, you and somebody else might interpret the image in a different way. I think a lot of people also get stuck in either or thinking when it comes to things like this instead of both and thinking. Internet culture really fuels either or thinking instead of both and thinking. But just because somebody adds a more feminine element to an outfit, for example, that doesn't make the masculine elements in the outfit less masculine. It doesn't negate the other things that you're seeing. It is the combination that makes up the whole picture. How you customize yourself is completely up to you, and it's important that we don't value our appearance over everything else that makes us wonderful. Get a hobby, read a book, be sexy, not just hot. Appearance does not supersede everything else you bring to the world. I know this video kind of jumped around, maybe not my most well scripted, I'm gonna be honest. I hope I gave you things to think about. Let's talk in the comments. How do you feel about this appearance centric video as well? Like, does it seem helpful? Did it feel a little off the mark? Like, I kind of want to hear your thoughts on that as well. I think different people are gonna feel different ways about it, to be honest. So I hope that this found the people that it is helpful for. That is all I want to do. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check out Vitaly with the link in my description. I will see you in the next one.